One of the biggest events of this past week was Russian President Vladimir Putin's state visit to India. Of course, Western mainstream media did not discuss it at all, as if it didn't even happen, but the visit is more than a diplomatic formality. It is a moment that is shaped by shifting power centers, global uncertainty, and the evolving ambitions of two countries that refuse to be trapped between competing superpowers. After 4 years away, I think his last trip to India was back in 2021, Putin has returned to what Moscow calls its special and privileged strategic partner, and the timing couldn't be more significant. Since 2022, India has played a very important, a critical role in preventing Russia from becoming economically or strategically overly dependent on Beijing. And then on the other side of that, US policy under Trump's second administration has clearly applied unexpected and a tremendous amount of diplomatic pressure on India, which pushed it to re-engage with China on one side, and then on the other side, it drew it much closer to one of its key regional allies, Russia.
A historical milestone. 25 years ago, President Putin laid a foundation of our strategic partnership. 15 years ago, in 2010, our partnership was elevated to the level of the specially privileged strategic partnership. Over the last 25 years, President Putin repeatedly gave additional impetuses to the development of these relations. Under his leadership, these relations got stronger and reached new horizons. And I would like to express my sincere gratitude to President Putin for his friendship and for his commitment to working with India, to cooperating with India.
And despite being very different countries, different cultures, different economies, and different political systems, India and Russia share very important qualities. Russia and India have a long tradition of stable, friendly, and mutually respectful cooperation. And unlike many bilateral relationships these days, Russia and India have never been in direct conflict with each other, and they have rarely found themselves on opposite sides of major global issues. So this partnership is only getting stronger, which is of course a thorn on the side for Washington that tries to coerce India into refusing to purchase Russian energy, and also to coerce PM Modi into aligning with the United States' interests in the region. India didn't do that. India didn't fall for that, and it is a sovereign state that leverages ties with the East and with the West, and in my opinion, it demonstrated this foundation quite skillfully over the past several months. After arriving in India, Vladimir Putin met informally with Prime Minister Narendra Modi on December the 4th before entering formal negotiations the following day on December the 5th. The talks were held at Hyderabad House in New Delhi and lasted more than 2 hours. Putin also met with President Draupadi Murmu, highlighting the full state character of the visit. Now, the outcome of this trip was substantial. Russia and India agreed to expand economic cooperation through 2030, and bilateral trade, which has surged in recent years, is now targeted to reach $100 billion. Both sides reaffirmed their steady shift toward national currencies, which now account for 96% of their mutual settlements. And this is very, very important in the context of the BRICS bloc. This is a truly enormous step toward de-dollarization, toward reducing the influence of Western systems in their affairs. They also discussed the creation of a free trade zone between India and the Eurasian Economic Union, which will open the door to even deeper commercial links and stronger ties between the nations. What's very important is that despite Western sanctions, India remains a significant importer of Russian energy. During the visit in New Delhi, Putin assured India of uninterrupted energy supplies, something that Moscow can provide at scale and at very competitive prices due to sanctions. A major joint pharmaceutical plant will also be built in Russia's Kaluga region. As you may know, India has world-leading pharma industry, especially in such areas as vaccines, generics, and anti-cancer drugs. So this is going to be another important step in bilateral investment opportunities and trade. Economic and trade cooperation between the two states will create a significant boost to their economies. And it's a very important point to understand, because when other policies are developed, many of them actually do go back to the ties that the two countries already have. So developing these strong ties now that are rooted in mutual benefits and that are rooted in economic growth that is mutually beneficial will likely lead them to stronger ties in other areas, in other policies down the road as well. Russia's largest bank, for example, Sber, announced plans to triple its operations in India. It sees the country as a top market for the next 20 years, and the two states agreed to explore a 30-day visa-free regime for tourists, which is a quite rare step between two non-Western powers. Vladimir Putin also officially launched RT India, which I think is a very important step. It is a media channel that is aimed at giving Indian audiences broader access to Russian perspectives. And also cooperation will definitely intensify in such areas as science, education, and student exchanges, judging from the statements that are published on official channels. India reaffirmed its call for a long-term peace framework regarding Ukraine, by the way, and effectively it signaled that India does intend to play a quiet but constructive role in future diplomatic efforts. All this is happening while the global order itself is clearly breaking down and reforming in real time. We are literally observing the collapse of the old liberal world order. We see that the most recent meeting between PM Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin is an indication that the new multipolar world is emerging. Back in 2021, analysts already believed that Russia and India were positioning themselves to revive a modern version of the non-aligned movement, which was created on India's later Voice of the Global South initiative. The idea of the initiative was very clear and very important. It sought to help the world's mid-sized and smaller states avoid falling into a rigid US-China bipolar rivalry, since both are the biggest economies in the world. So instead of two dominant power centers, the goal was to support a world system with multiple centers of power. And in my opinion, that is precisely what we see unfolding right now, with Russia-India ties expanding and strengthening, and they're really focusing on key developmental areas such as economic cooperation, investments, and trade, something that would benefit not only them, but also their regional partners and their alliances outside of the scope of Russia-India ties. As Putin's visit came to a close on December the 5th, one thing is clear. This is a mutually advantageous moment, and it is a very important one. Russia wants to avoid over-reliance on China, and India wants to avoid pressure from either of the two superpowers. The United States, if it reassesses its interests, may soon recognize that India's role in balancing Russia and balancing China on the other side is not really a threat to the interest of the United States, but it could be a tremendous asset. And both Moscow and New Delhi are aligned in their desire to shape an international system that is more multipolar, more flexible, and more representative of a changing world. And I think they're doing very, very well advancing those goals. In strengthening their partnership, Russia and India are not just advancing their own interests, by the way, they're helping build the foundations of the next global order that is defined not by blocs or superpowers, but by many centers of power, many voices, and many peaceful paths to development. The visit was very warm, as you can tell from the footage that I've included in this video. It was very respectful, and both sides covered a lot of ground. I think it gives Washington a lot of food for thought, and hopefully it gives Washington ideas how it can improve its own foreign policy toward the global south. I will probably write more on this over on my Substack and Patreon. I think this is a fascinating topic, so go ahead and subscribe now if you would like to stay updated. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for being here. I appreciate your time. Support my work if you haven't already. Make sure that you are subscribed to my YouTube, Substack, and Patreon channel. Follow me on other social media platforms. All of them are linked in the description below. I would love to see you there. And I will see you back here for a new video tomorrow. Take care.